No.
You are now live on Channel 8 and YouTube.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The time is 6:30 p.m. My name is Matthew Rivard. I'm the chairperson of the Templeton Advisory Committee. And at this time, I would like to call the committee to order on this, the 16th day of September 2021. Would you all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? It's over here. Change it again. I know. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Templeton Advisory Committee business meetings are being broadcast live on TCTV Channel 8 and the TCTV YouTube channel. Any comments made to the YouTube channel chat will be considered part of the public record and included with the minutes of the meeting, and a response will be made to these comments as soon as possible. The agenda and meeting materials for this business meeting were posted to www.mytowngovernment.org/01468 no later than 48 hours prior to the scheduled meeting in accordance with Commonwealth of Massachusetts open meeting laws. The chairperson reserves the right to add items to, remove items from, or change the order of the agenda as he sees fit. However, the agenda is posted in advance to give the committee and public time to review the agenda items and to ensure that the meeting runs within its allotted time frame. And now that we've gotten that out of the way, a few guests in the room this evening that I would like to acknowledge from the Templeton Board of Select Persons, Terry Griffiths. The town moderator, John Graves, is here with us this evening. The town administrator, Adam Lamontagne, is here with us this evening. And the final note is that we have 5 people. We also have 2 citizens in the room with us. We have Justice Graves with us here this evening, and we have Hunter Graves with us here this evening. And also just entering the room is from the Board of Select Persons, Mr. Jeffrey Bennett. We do have 5 people on the committee in the room. Our quorum is 4, so we may conduct business. The public will note that the agenda that I posted and the materials for the meeting that I posted are sequentially numbered, and you'll notice that it all lines up with the numbers that is in the agenda. So if you're following along, please take a look at those particular documents as we go along. At this time, we move to public comments. Is there any public comments for this evening? If there is, we'd ask you to please come to the hot seat and be recognized by the chair. Going once, going twice. Very good. No public comments this evening. It was Mr. Spring's idea, and I agree. Next item on the agenda, item 3B, the meeting minutes from September 2nd, 2021. I'll accept the motion to approve them as presented. So moved. I have a motion from Mr. Spring. I have a second from Mr. Kaplis to approve the minutes from September 2nd, 2021 as presented. Is there any discussion on said motion?
I will say this, Mr. Chairman, we've done a very good job of capturing the main.
Is there any further discussion on said motion? Hearing none, we will move to a roll call vote. As I call your name, please indicate approval of the motion by saying yes, disapproval by saying no, and you may abstain as well. Ms. Bartolomeo.
Yes.
Mr. Spring.
Yes.
Ms. Hansa.
Yes.
Mr. Kaplis.
Yes.
And I am a yes. The motion passes 5-0 at 6:34 p.m. We have no correspondence this evening. We move to old business, item 5A. The July 2021 budget versus actual document. I will accept the motion at this time to accept the document as read and reviewed.
So moved.
I have a motion from Mr. Kaplis. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Mr. Spring. At this time, I'll accept any discussion items on the budget versus actual document from July 2021. And I would ask Mr. Lamontagne, the town administrator, if you'd like to come forward to the hot seat to be able to answer any questions, you may do so at this time. You shouldn't laugh like that when I asked him to come to the hot seat. Well, really.
Nice.
Get pleasure out of it, is that it?
He's got enough to deal with already without us.
We don't have it electrocuted.
No,
That would be
yeah.
funny, wouldn't it? A little buzz. Get one of those tens units, you know,
So
and
you're-
just stick it to
I'm really glad that everyone can laugh at this. This is this is good. All right.
Ready for?
Whenever you're ready, just let me recognize you. Mr. Spring.
I have a number of things because
Okay.
I look at the BVA and I see money's expended, but this is gonna go on to, back to the budget. As I already have sent an email to the administrator concerning the accounts, the accounts expenses. And one of the things why I look at that, I looked at the BVA. And then I went back to the actual employee support things. And the question that I asked was concerning the town account showing up at the special town and annual town meeting, and the cost for that individual, because I anticipated that individual would probably be coming, since they live in Florida. That's an expense for the town. And as you know, we watch the dollars, because I looked at the employee support. I see a lot of stuff, but it doesn't say anything about coming back to the needs. And I know that the budgets were set up by the past administrator with the discretion of the department head. I've never been fully on board with that, because I think we need to take it end up watching our dollars a little bit more, because of this type of expense can end up being expensive. And we have to look at the overall cost of not only having a part-time administrator, accountant in that position. And I was verbal about putting more dollars in, because we didn't know how long the interim would be. And if we went to go out and get another individual, we needed more dollars. The past advisory committee didn't necessarily vote on anything like that. So I'm bringing up really about the expense. And I know that I spoke to Adam. I sent him an email saying, hey, can you give me some insight as to what the cost is, because it's a cost to the town. I mean, it's an expense that it's not on here, but we need to take it into understanding that. And I don't think that some townspeople would probably be happy with us having somebody work that's out of state, never mind the next state over. It's probably 1,500 to 1,600 miles away. And there's always a delay besides in processing stuff. And I ended up putting all of that in to my email to the administrator. So
Mr. Chairman, I have a question, if you don't mind, Will. What exactly expense were you specifically talking about? I know it's the account. Are you talking like?
Their travel,
Employee support.
their travel expenses, basically.
there's
back and forth
employees,
for town
there's a
meetings
thing
and
called
such.
Yeah, I got
employee
it.
support.
Yeah, I got it. So you're concerned about the travel from Florida to Massachusetts?
Yeah.
And that we're paying for?
Yeah.
I see.
And there's other expenses
I
also,
got you.
because my
Now I'm tracking.
understanding is that
I just wasn't sure.
there's going to be an expense to keep the person up.
Mhm.
Of course, they got to be able to get around. That's a car.
Yeah,
And
so
I'm
like
sure-
lodging.
I'm sure it's just like any other, if you not consider it training or a conference, there's meals expense. So I mean, that's a lot of things to go into it.
Well, let's let Mr. Lamontagne answer the question. Adam, please.
So if I can, this is going back to January, and this is shortly after I took over as the town administrator. You know that our accountant was leaving, and we went out and tried to find an accountant. We went through, I believe, a search, and I believe a second search, try to find somebody to take over. So at that point, for the general flow of operations for the town, in my authority, placed a part-time temporary interim appointment of the current accountant within my authority there. At that point, I gave the appointment and we proceeded down the road. The question of travel came up and I come to learn that she also is full-time with Hubbardston, and that Hubbardston would pay for half of the travel. So with that, I did sign off on allowing at the cheapest rate possible for the town of both Hubbardston and Templeton, split between the two towns for the travel.
Just to let people know that from the standpoint of budget, it's not illegal to take and pay for her to do that because it's under employee support. Unfortunately, the individual does not live in the state. And that kind of is not exactly a good situation overall for the town, because like I said, there's a delay in handling this and an expense that we would not ordinarily have per se. There's other expenses on there, and I'm hoping that we don't go off and end up addressing those later on, because it actually shows it as a part-time employee. I'm not sure that she would be going to a boot camp for the position at hand. So
Is your question?
yes, I'm done with
All
it.
right. I'd like to allow other members of the committee to ask questions, and we'll come back if that's okay to you, if you have more.
No problem.
Deb?
Does she have, we don't have town meeting on the same week or day, do we? As Hubbardston?
I said the question is, do we have a town meeting in the same week or day as the town of Hubbardston,
We
which
have-
she also works for?
We have it at different times, but she's gonna be staying up for the whole period. So we have the auditors coming up as well, and we have all other training that she needs to do for the employee here. So it's not just for town
Pick it
meeting.
all off in one shot.
It's all, is what, before I sign off, I make sure that it's gotta be, from not just, we're trying to get everything taken care of all at once.
Make the trip worthwhile.
Just to think, add to what Adam's saying is that we have at the end of the year, the tax recap sheet that has to go in, and there's certain requirements from the accountant that have to be done, and I understand that those have to be taken care of, and maybe she's going with the way he's just explaining, maybe she's trying to end up getting the assistant versed in that also.
Deb, did you have any other questions?
No,
Either to
I'm
this or
thinking,
something
I'm-
else?
I'm just thinking, that's all.
All right. I said, do you have any questions? Do you have any other questions on the BVA that you want to ask other than this?
No.
Okay. John?
I have nothing.
Okay, well.
I'm set. I'm set. I mean,
That was,
I don't like the blind side. I
okay.
told the administrator that I
Put
would,
it up front.
I up front, had my question. He went and did some research and he came back and gave us an update. I'm satisfied that he looked into it and that we're not taking the full vote per se.
I asked the same questions.
And, okay.
Because for the town meeting, she doesn't actually have to be here.
Right.
She could Zoom for that.
Right.
The auditors may be something different,
Yeah, right. The auditor's a totally different ballgame.
but just the same, I would like to see the position closer to home. I would like to have a certified person. We went through so many years of horror because we had uncertified people in that position. We should never be in that kind of a position again. We really, it leaves us wide open, and it scares me because I know the pain the town went through, the workers went through, they got laid off. We had 4 days a week in town hall. It was horrible. I don't want to go there.
And that position in earlier years was the one that
Created
actually helped
problems.
us get into problems for
That was a
the
catalyst.
audits for 13, 14, 15, all the way up to 16. So it's very important to pick and have a certified person in that position as far as from the advisory standpoint of watching the finances. If we don't have somebody doing a good job there,
We're gonna pay
There's a
for it in
problem.
the end.
Hopefully we never go through that again.
We better not.
I hope not.
I won't be here. Literally.
Are there any other questions with regards to the BVA from July? And please note, to the committee that the BVA from August will be going on to the agenda for our next meeting,
Yeah.
whenever that may be.
Yeah.
We're going to discuss that in a bit as well.
As far as the BBA is, it's too soon for us to end up actually making some comments. There's probably at the next BBA,
The August maybe.
yeah, the August, it probably won't be for the individual departments, but that they can see stuff that's still hanging on, that we haven't processed, and to get an update from Adam.
All right. If there's no further comments on the July BVA, we go to a vote. Again, to approve, the motion to accept it, a yes, to disapprove, no, and you may abstain. Ms. Bartolomeo.
Yes.
Mr. Spring.
Yes,
Mr. Kaplan.
Yes,
Ms. Hanza.
Yes.
And I am a yes. That motion passes 5-0 at 6:45 PM. Item 5B, this is just a note, is the advisory committee policy on end-of-year transfers. That is tabled until the October 7th meeting. And at that point, we will come back with our comments on that policy, and we will likely move to approve it as revised.
yes, and I think that's, yeah, and looking back at some of the policies we had, and I did look at that, and it was due because that policy was done and let's see, in actually 2016.
Okay, yes, that's over 5 years at this point. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's move to new business then. Item 6A, nominations for the advisory committee Scribe. A couple of notes on this. Nominations do not require a second. The nomination must be accepted by the nominee, and a vote would be required to approve the nomination. If it's a single nomination, then it would be a straight up yes, no. If there are multiple people nominated, then we would vote between the two, or we would vote between the number of people who are nominated. I will also note that this position will have to help us with communications to outside entities and such. And they will also, in previous iterations, they would have had to take the minutes of the meeting, but in this iteration, they will only have to review the minutes of the meeting and state that they are accurate before presenting them to the board for approval, because the board is hiring an intern, and then part of that, or I'm sorry, that shouldn't say the board's hiring an intern, the town's hiring an intern, and one of that intern's positions will be to take minutes for this committee meeting. So that person will take the minutes, present them to the scribe will verify them, and then they will come in front of the board at the following meeting for approval.
There was already by HE as to what has to be on the minutes per se, so if there's any question as to that, we'd be happy to supply that.
Yeah, we'll present that document to the person who gets that job, and will and this way they'll have a good idea. And I think that you agree, the committee can agree with me or disagree or not, but I think that the minutes that we presented this week or 2 weeks ago are a good example of how they should look.
Yes.
So.
It's gonna help a lot of committees. It's gonna
Yes.
help them a lot.
Yeah,
Make a big-
and I thank the administrator
Yeah.
for listening to this old guy from the advisory as to, because I knew that was a possibility from other communities, as well as one of the members that used to be on this advisory committee. He left the state, he went up to Keene, New Hampshire, and they have a floating person, almost like what we were talking about. And he used me as a reference. And he did I couldn't say no because he did such an outstanding job. I had to take him into, and I really miss that individual being here, but I think he's gonna do a good job for the city of Keene.
At this time, I will accept nominations for the position of scribe.
I'll make a nomination for Elaine Hawson.
Ellen,
Ellen,
you have to accept the nomination or you may decline.
At this time, I decline it.
Very well.
I'm
That
afraid.
is
Thank
perfectly,
you,
that is
but
perfectly
I'm
acceptable.
still too-
Yep, that's perfectly acceptable.
Don't look at me.
Are there any other nominations for the position of scribe? Hearing none at this time, this will come back in 2 weeks as a standing agenda item until the position of scribe is filled.
At that time, we may end up having that individual that may change their minds, hopefully.
So I will move to old business. Following motions now are in relation to the fall special town meeting on November 3rd. I make a motion to schedule the pre-town meeting for Thursday, October 21st, 2021, in lieu of the regularly scheduled advisory committee meeting.
So moved.
So, second,
I actually made the motion, so it's actually, we just need a second.
okay,
Yeah.
second.
So we have a second. I have a motion and a second to hold our pre-town meeting on Thursday, October 21st, 2021, in lieu of the regularly scheduled advisory committee meeting. Is there any discussion?
Well, that gives us some time to, once we end up going through the warrant, to actually have some additional comments along with the vote. But we should be doing.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we go to a roll call vote. Ms. Bartolomeo.
Yes.
Mr. Spring.
Yes.
Mr. Caplis.
Yes.
Ms. Hanza.
Yes.
And I am a yes, 5-0. That motion is approved at 6:51 PM. I make a motion to schedule an advisory committee business meeting for Thursday, October 28th, 2021. That is a typo on the agenda. For the express purpose of approving the warrant recommendations and forwarding to the town administrator.
Second,
I have a second.
Right now. We gotta leave enough time for
Yes,
everything to get typed up.
yes, so, having we, yeah, so we will obviously we will obviously do all of our recommendations at the pre-town meeting on the 21st. That gives me a week to type up the document and get it over to you people for review.
and we probably put some of the comments that. we
And I'll
made.
have the comments at least drafted in it. And then on the 28th, we will go through and we will vote on the document itself. We will make any adjustments to the comments necessary. And then my intention is by the end of that meeting, the document will be finalized, at which point I can literally put it into an email and hit send while I'm still on the Wi-Fi in this building.
Okay. I was wondering how you could do that.
Yes,
And like
that would be the theory.
I'd like to point out that we're up against the wall
Yeah.
again because of the bylaw change.
If you read the bylaw, technically our due date is the 30th. That would be 4 days before the pre-town meeting. If you want to say business days, then I would have to hit send on that the night that we approve it, which is fine, it can be done. But the way that I read the bylaw, it doesn't say business days. It just says 4 days prior to the special town meeting.
Yeah.
Therefore, that would mean I technically have until Saturday, the 30th, in order to get it done.
And last year, we did not make the deadline.
We will make the deadline this year. Okay, Mr. Lamonte.
The only thing I have is, because I have to put together the voter's guide, and that's kind of a tight window for
Yeah.
me to go out and print it. So is the advisory gonna be sending like a separate packet for us to have at town meeting?
Yes.
So the document that we will vote on, it'll be.
Just because I'm trying to
Yeah,
think.
it'll basically be a PowerPoint document. The idea is that each page is going to be one recommendation, so it'll be 17 pages, and all we have to do is print it.
See-
Print it and,
And you can actually, if it's a PowerPoint and you have it on a disk or whatever,
oh yeah, you'll have the file.
we can actually, at the town meeting, we can put it up because it's been done in the past that way, number one. Number two, we've had a separate document in the past also, when many years ago, it was actually on the warrant, because the warrant went in so late, we were able to get some of the votes and correspondence as to why we voted the way we were. So I'm just speaking from past experience.
And to you, Mr. Lamontagne, I would also note that Thursday, the 28th is the earliest that we can approve it, because I've already discussed with TCTV and the entire week is booked up, except for that date.
Well, you're gonna be doing a PowerPoint too,
Yeah.
right?
I am going to be doing a PowerPoint.
See, I have a problem with someone walking into town meeting and getting handed a book that it's got 20 pages in it. If they've been working all day and they come flying down the road to try to get there, and they're trying to figure out what the devil it says, you got lousy lighting. I really hate the lines through stuff, because if you have a learning disability or if you have any problems with your site, it's impossible.
And
You know, it
Typically-
just doesn't make sense.
well, and one of the reasons for doing it in the fashion that I'm going to do it, Bev, is that each article's recommendation will be on one page.
Yeah.
So it'll be large enough for people to read easily.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and literally, as we go through the articles, people turn the page, there's the next article. This way, they're not searching on a Word document
Yeah.
where they're looking for. I
Because-
think this will be an easier way for people to read it.
Yeah.
We've also put it up, like I said, in the
Yeah.
past, because I have examples of that, we've done that, one of the town meetings, I'm not sure if it's special or whatever. I still have the slide presentation that this committee made. And I know that Adam has to go through and make the motions, and that's usually after we actually look at after pre-town, so that we really have to, just as a reference, we really have to take it into looking at what the motion, what the article is. And I think the chairman's gonna address this as to have individuals that put forth a warrant article to be here to address any concerns that we have, so that we can end up doing the better job.
When this year is gonna be different, more different than other years, because we have so many new people in town. And hopefully we can get them to come to town meeting, and a lot of them come from the city, they have no idea what a town meeting's like. So we really have to be patient and educate them. I don't want them to turn around, walk out the door and say, man, that was a shit show, a horror show, I'm never coming back. I don't want that to happen. I want them to feel comfortable to ask a question and say, you know, I don't understand this, what does this mean? So that's what we really have to do. And we have 8,000 people in this town. I want to see a lot of people at town meeting. They need to learn, they have a voice. In cities, you don't have a voice. You don't have to go to the meeting of your, what do they call a meeting?
City council.
City council, yeah, totally different ballgame.
Mhm.
So. it's
And
gonna be-
there's also another form of town meeting where you have town meeting representatives from different precincts and
Yeah.
people voted on it.
So this is a whole
Open
different
town meeting
ballgame
is-
for a lot of people.
Open town meeting is really a unique, unique idea for the townspeople to have a lot of say-so in their town government.
I told my husband, you're gonna love it.
Is there any other discussion on the motion to schedule the advisory committee business meeting for Thursday, October 28th, 2021, for the express purpose of approving the warrant recommendations and forwarding to the town administrator?
No.
Hearing none, the roll call vote, Ms. Bartolomeo.
Yes.
Mr. Spring.
Yes.
Mr. Caplis.
Yes.
Ms. Hansa.
Yes.
And I am a yes. That's 5-0 at 6:58 PM. I make a motion for the chairperson and or secretary and or scribe to post the pre-town meeting notification in the Gardner News for the Saturday, October 16th, 2021 issue, and to publish on the Town of Templeton website and social media channels.
I'll second.
I have a seconded. I have a motion and I have a second. Do I have any discussion on that motion?
No, no problem.
I think that's straightforward.
And the only reason I'm making the motion is because in order to post it in the Gardner News, that does require that does require money. So that's the reason I make the motion for that, so that
Not only that is, just so people understand, that's I think the 16th.
Is the Saturday
is the
before.
Saturday.
Yep.
Before, but that week there is a very unusual week because the Monday is a holiday, Columbus Day.
Yeah.
Nice for the state. And the Gardner News usually has to take and have that type of stuff in on like a Monday or a Tuesday,
Yeah.
so that they can end up putting it on a Saturday.
which is not going to be hard for me because I'm going to call Gatehouse Media this week and tell them I need that in. So it'll be, I'll be speaking to Gatehouse Media this week and getting that taken care of.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. So, is there any further discussion on the said motion?
No,
Hearing none, roll call vote, Ms. Bartolomeo.
Yes.
Mr. Spring.
Yes.
Mr. Caplis.
Yes.
Ms. Hansa.
Yes.
And I'm a yes, 5-0. That is approved at 6:59 PM. Now, regarding the 5th Thursday of September scheduled advisory committee meeting, I am going to make a motion to hold the advisory committee business meeting on September 30th, 2021 as scheduled, in lieu of the regularly scheduled meeting on Thursday, October 21st, being canceled for the pre-town meeting. The chairperson reserves the right to cancel this meeting if there are not enough agenda items to warrant as the call of the chair.
Sounds good.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Bartolomeo.
Yes.
Mr. Spring.
Yes.
Mr. Kaplan.
Yes.
Ms. Hanza.
Yes.
And I'm a yes, 5-0 at 7 PM. Item 6D, regarding town use of cleargov.com. This is agenda item is requested by Mr. Spring. I will accept the motion at this time. Mr. Spring, if you want to make it, go ahead.
Okay.
I have it. I have one. I have a suggested motion written down in the agenda. If you wish to so make that a suggested motion.
Okay. Motion to recommend the select board to not renew ClearGov subscription for 2022, as all the information found on ClearGov subscription can be found on Mass Department of Revenue, DOR, DLS website for free.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Spring and a second by Ms. Bartolomeo to recommend the select board not renew ClearGov subscription for 2022, as all information found on ClearGov subscription can be found on the Mass DOR DLS website for free. For the public, the Mass DOR is the Department of Revenue. DLS is the Division of Local Services. Is there any discussion on said motion?
Yes, Mr.
Mr.
Chairman.
Spring, please, please.
Yes. And looking at ClearGov from now to 2026, it would be costing the town $40,424. I think a better use of that is a lot of other stuff.
$8,000 a year, basically.
Yeah, well, 6,500
$6,000.
roughly, give or take, because it goes up incrementally. And they place it on the town website. Well, I don't know if anybody else has looked, but I looked. It's atrocious what ClearGov puts. As an example, ClearGov puts on for the population of this community 8,130. You go on a DOR site and it's 8,153. All this information, let me just go through a number of reports. You can end up going for graphs on that site with data. You can end up looking at what the actual value of the community is, and it's broken down a number of ways.
This is all on DLS.
Yeah, this is all on DLS. You can look at our liability as far as retirement goes for a number of things. I'm not going to go into the details, but then you can also go into the many other areas and from multiple years. And I mean, I got one here that goes from 2004 to 2021, and that's the population. I mean, it's there. Why are we paying somebody to give us the data that's already there free?
Not only that, the data that may not be correct.
Not 2019.
Exactly right, because I looked at the data, because you can end up hitting it and it breaks it down. They had a graph, and I looked at the data and I went, that's not the same as DLS. And oh, by the way, where does DLS get the information? They're not pulling it out of the hat. Who sends it to them? The administrator want to answer that one? We do. So why are we paying somebody to take and end up getting data that we put in that's already compiled for us over a multitude of things? So that was my recommendation, to take and end up getting rid of that and saving the town some money over the period of time.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns on this particular motion? Mr. Lamontagne.
If I can jump in, the board, select board member Bennett brought it to the next agenda. In the time being, we're working to, we just had another conversation with ClearGov least to get it updated for the time being while we have it. I did have to reach out to them through our executive assistant in our office, and we had about 160 page views, just some information. I guess the top pages were the overview page, the demographics, 2018 expenditures, 2019 expenditures. I know the information was, they went up to fiscal year 19, we brought it up to fiscal year 20. They should be uploaded fiscal year 21. So at least in the time being, to get the information out that we have paid for,
Yeah.
for the public to have available. And if the board does choose to cancel it, at least we'll have that updated.
Yeah, because when I looked at the site, that's 8130, it said right on the bottom, census. 1990, 2000, 2010. 2010, folks, it's 11 years ago. I mean, if they had said 2018, I'll say, well, okay, they're a little bit behind. But I mean, God,
All right,
it's a long time.
can I say something?
You may, Ms.
You
Bartolome.
know, sometimes I understand it sounds good. And sometimes it sounds good, but it isn't good. The fact that you had to call to get them to get in the ball game and do their job, there's a huge problem with that. Some of the deals that we bought into, that we've paid money to have someone do work for us, that the conclusion cost us a lot more. We could have come to that conclusion on our own.
No.
Sometimes it's a scam. And they wouldn't do a thing about it unless you rattled their cage and said, hey, wait a minute, what's wrong? You shouldn't have to do that. And it makes no sense for Jeffrey to have to sit there and show everyone in black and white that we have wasted $6,000. People looked at it, but what did they look at? Old information. You can go back and find that. So it's our dime. You can have somebody from out of town walk in here and try to sell you anything. But if you're voting, you have to put yourself in the shoes of the person that's paying their taxes. That's who you work for. And you only have 60 days to give them notice, don't you?
That is correct.
So if you miss that, we miss that 60 days, we're on the hook for a whole other year of this.
Fortunately, with Mr. Bennett putting it on the select board for
Yes.
next week, plus this recommendation, whether it passes or not, if the select board votes on it this week and says cancel it, we're in plenty of time of that window.
I don't understand why it wasn't addressed, but the last selectmen.
Well, it's a
I mean,
path of
That's
least,
why I put it on, because
it's a path of least
it's
resistance.
money that we could better spend somewhere else. And I looked at other communities, and I looked at Munson, who also has, I think Munson a month ago, I looked at, and it's the same thing,
So it's
the
not,
same years. The data on these sites from other communities is past date. I mean, if we have to go kick them to get the date, these other poor communities are not being served too. And I can't speak for them, but I can speak for my community and say, it's a waste of money.
without a doubt.
Is there any other discussion on this motion?
I think we only need, not only do we send it to the administrator, we should send it to the whole
Select board membership. Hang on.
that was my only other comment, Mr. Chair.
That's fine. PA. No problem. Is there any other discussion on this motion? Hearing none, roll call vote, Ms. Bartolomeo,
Yes.
Mr. Spring,
Yes,
Mr. Kaplas,
Yes.
Ms. Hanza,
Yes.
and I am a yes, 5-0 at 7:09 PM. I will send a letter to the town administrator and copying the select board with the recommendation as voted. Next item, item 6E, regarding a pilot for light and water. This item was requested by Mr. Wilf Spring. Mr. Spring, if you would like to make the motion.
Yes, you got it written out, I see.
I would like,
I like that, I just.
I try to help you.
Well, I'm gonna, it probably wouldn't be sounding as nice, you know. A motion to recommend the select board to obtain a pilot for light and water. This was a Mass DOR, DLS recommendation and is necessary for the town to make informed budget decisions.
Do I have a second?
Second,
We have a motion and a second to recommend the select board obtain a pilot for light and water as a Mass DOR DLS recommendation. Is there any discussion on said motion?
Yes, if I can. We
Go
received
ahead.
from the DOR, Town of Templeton Financial Management Review update, March 2021. Everybody is on that.
Presentation.
On page 19, item 13. It says adopt formal pilot agreement with Mass Municipal Light and Water Plan. It's incomplete. We can't end up doing and I sympathize with the administrator. He cannot do a good job of budgeting if he doesn't know if he's got a pilot or not, and they're throwing money at us where they want. That's not how it works. They need to end up coming forth with a pilot for us to it. And I make, along with that recommendation, not only do I recommend we send it to the administrator and the Board of Selectmen, but we also copy the general manager of the Light and Water and all the commissioners. Let them know that we are looking after the town's money. And I don't know how you want to word that, Mr. Chairman, but I think it should be a strong thing of that's not acceptable because we can't count on that money. And we used to get that from the past municipal light company. And oh, by the way, it's a municipal light company. It's not an individual company that's not owned by the town. The town ended up choosing to go with a municipal light company. They can't do business without ending up for debt, as well as their health insurance and other benefits. And I won't go into that. The administrator can go into that. There's a lot of them.
Is there any other discussion, Ms. Bartolomeo?
Because I've been here a while. My grandfather was a light commissioner. Okay? You know what, I have some old town books. Having the light pay a pilot is nothing new. The only difference is they didn't refer to it as a pilot. When the light company was established, the selectmen actually ran the light company.
Yeah.
They made the decision as to what streets got lights. And it wasn't until sometime later that they got commissioners, and it's not real clear what they did. They must have been in charge of the daily routine. In 1932, this is from the town report, we are turning back to the general fund $3,000 from our maintenance cash. And we shall also try to take of the expense of the street lighting for 1933. So what they were doing, they were expanding and paying their way as they went along. They turned back to the general fund money at that time. It says we're going to credit that amount against the amount that the town has appropriated for construction the year gone by, and we shall also credit that same account with the amount turned back to the general fund. A total of these two amounts should help lower the tax rate. So they were expanding the lines, they were paying for everything, and they were helping the town pay their way. In 1933, they gave the town $2,700 as they went along. In the year that I was born,
We won't say what year.
in 1946, they used $7,000 to be made to Does aid to be used by the assessor in fixing the tax rate. I should note that the worker was making 30 cents an hour at that time. So to ask the light company to provide us with a payment in lieu of taxes is nothing new. It is not unreasonable. The amount, they carried the town for many years when we had real financial problems.
There was times when we were getting anywhere from $50,000 to $150,000.
Easily a
Easily.
year.
And I remember those years. Because I was saying you can't all put it on against lowering the taxes, because I could see government was changing, and when that happened, when we had a low tax
Right.
rate, it came back to bite us,
So
that we had such a low tax rate.
they are using town resources. They have to contribute to them. And I remember Driscoll saying, Mr. Driscoll, he's their manager, saying, if we give you more, we'll take more from you. No, he's giving you, he's blowing smoke. Because it comes out of a fund they have, they make money. So to pay a pilot, Ashburnham does it. Other municipal companies do it.
Yeah.
But I understand Adam's position. He can do nothing unless he has backing by the selectmen. We have a road that we have to demolish in town. It's called the path of least resistance. This path started as a dirt road. It got evened out, it got paved, but for 40 years, we've been following the path of least resistance. When something comes before our leaders, instead of dealing with it and making good decisions, they ignore it. This gets us nothing but trouble. Whether it be making good decisions about policy, projects, I don't care what it is. We have got to stop taking the path of least resistance. And they have to do their job. They're working for the people in this town. The light company will adjust. As long as they can say to you, nah, we're not gonna give you a pilot, they're not gonna do it. I love our light company. Bart and I brought them tomatoes like everybody else. I know when we have a problem, they're gonna be there. This is not about our linesmen. It is about our management. I heard one man say, well, if we give you money, you waste it. That is not his decision. How the money is spent should be up to the town selectmen and the town meeting. So the path of least resistance, if we get a new rotary down there, that's what we're gonna call it, because the town has been going in this big circle for over 40 years. And I'm really, really tired of it, because it doesn't do us any good. It just hurts us.
To add to that, what Deb said, the town actually has some leverage on getting them to get in touch. Look at all the stuff that we do to them, for them, and not charge them. Health insurance. We're the ones that are going out and getting the health insurance. They may not like the health insurance, but we have to look at the overall cost. So I mean, there's items that we can end up leveraging, that they can end up, and the selectmen can end up leveraging.
Payroll. It's a cost of doing business. But their buildings are sitting on our property, but they are our company. Their debt is our debt. Them in the water department, there is no difference. See, there was this old man, and he used to get up at town meeting and he'd say, this is what we did for you this year. He was a light commissioner. They worked for the people in the town. There was one year that no one in town paid a light bill in December.
Yeah.
Everyone got a free light bill in December. And he had Mr. Demick, Mr. Houghton Park,
Yeah.
Roger was a light commissioner. Mr. Quasney was a light
Right.
commissioner. These men were very proud of what they did for the town. They didn't fight the town, they worked with the town.
Let me just make
And
one.
nothing's changed, basically. The way things are no different today than they were 40 years ago.
Oh. Adam, did you have?
I do. I don't disagree with what you're saying whatsoever. I did reach out to the general manager, John Driscoll, on the establishment based on the DLS report, sharing the information of that report and the fact that we need to develop a formal pilot program. I did indicate in years in 11, 12, there was a 100,000, I think one year went up to $150,000, and town meeting voted on it. And I wanted to establish that type of arrangement. And to the budgeting standpoint, I agree, it makes it a little bit cleaner than trying to figure out the capital and everything else and what they're gonna cover, what they're not gonna cover. So I did reach out there, but if I can say, I think the town has made some strides in the right direction as the end of fiscal year 22, June 30, 2022, the select board have effectively canceled the health insurance plan that is offered solely at the light and water plant, where they're all going to be on the town side of the house. I sent notification, and we will proceed forward in that with having one plan for all town employees. Also, I've been speaking with town council, and I think this was a discussion going on quite a while, was the fact of elected officials being on the warrant. It is the recommendation of town council to me, after I examined it, because remember when I first took over, that was my first annual town meeting, so I'm still trying to get everything where I'm doing everything that needs to be taken care of on the right way, but also incrementally making progress. It was the town council made the recommendation that the light and water commissioners are to be on the warrant. So that will be another thing you see. So you're gonna have one plan for all town employees, and we're gonna have the light and water commissioners on the warrant.
Good.
I
So
think,
everybody's aware too, because we have the communities of West Boylston, Sterling. And if you look at those communities, West Boylston surprised me, and you had brought up the fact of the December in the past, and they've done some things like that. So I mean,
That'll be a
They
big
can-
improvement.
and they're doing a pilot also. And I just point that out because they've been generous in the past, but we need to take and have some stability to do the budget.
You can't have them say, we'll do a project. No, I don't like that project. And then they don't do any project. It doesn't make sense. This is what is a formula. Figure it out. Luann can do that. And this is what it is. It's when I get a bill, I don't get to whine. I may whine about it, but that it is what it is. This is it. And you have the knowledge of what you're going to get, and you can plan on how it's best used. It's up to town meeting to approve it or disapprove it. That's all I got to say.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Kaplan.
Well, I believe and I understand everything that's being said.
Mhm.
And I'm not gonna sit here and say I disagree, because I don't. But this town runs, it's got great employees, it's got great staff, great departments. Light and water is one of the better departments that we have working in this community. For its
Nobody
people.
said that. Nobody said that.
Nope, and best equipment, best equipped. And they do great things. We tried in the past with some communications with Mr. Driscoll, and it was like kind of like baby steps, going one step at a time, baby steps. Just trying to understand the process of what he has to go through, dealing with his distributors for electricity, and how he has to do his business, which again, it took me a long time to understand. So I only know a little bit to what he knows. I mean, 'cause I have the amount of responsibility that guy has is beyond me. But the amount of things that they've been doing over the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years has been instrumental. I don't want that being unrecognized.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah, the new
Taking it
police
away
car
from
that
them.
was been bought by the water department a
Yep.
few years back. The different constructions projects, the road in front of, their building, which was $100,000+. The road that's right down the street here, that also later chipped in about $150,000+, which they don't understand that. I'm not saying they are doing some things. I think, Adam, I think you put it clearly that, I mean, obviously we are moving in the right direction. I mean, obviously with the insurance, which also saves, everybody dollars at the end, because obviously the more people get on a plan, the less it becomes.
Right.
The fact that they are willing to do other things, like, I mean, I know for years, they didn't charge the town any electric bills, zero.
That was part of their
Mhm.
agreement.
It was, this was, I mean, I'm talking a
Yeah.
couple of years ago. And same with streetlights. I mean, so they have been doing things, I think, having, working with Adam now, knowing the fact that they're with the insurance piece, and then also with, having the commissions on the warrant, which is also new. And that's something that's also, I would say, it's just something new for them to go through now, something new that they have to deal with.
I think they
With all
always
that
were,
stuff being
yeah.
said, I mean, I'm here to use baby steps, but I mean, if they're willing to do projects at least for the next year, maybe two, as you're working with the commissioners, as you're working with Mr. Driscoll, to come up with a program, to come up with some type of policy in writing. I don't think going head to head at that department at this point, knowing the fact that they've already got insurance to deal with, the commissioners going on the warrant. And then on top of that, you're gonna throw, by the way, we're gonna do a formula for a pilot at the same time, but instead of that, I mean, I know they have put out some project information concerning, Hope Park for the roof at the gazebo, which I think is a great opportunity. I mean, again, the way lumbers, I mean, that's an expensive job. But I mean, I don't disagree. That's my whole, I don't want people here to think I'm not disagreeing. I think it's a great thing going forward. I just think at this point in time, is it the right course of action to do? Let's get them on the warrant. Let's get the insurance stuff. Let's keep working with Mr. Driscoll to let them know that we are all the same team. Because again, I mean,
All right, but we have the DLS has told us and told us.
for the last 20
And the
years.
path of least
Yeah.
resistance is to ignore it and just chug along the way we are. And
I
if
mean-
everybody
Right.
else, every other municipal company can do a pilot, they can put their big boy pants on and do the same thing.
Maybe I'm not disagreeing with you, but again,
You know,
back in
They got the
2016,
best equipment.
They do.
They have, every 5 years, they had a schedule.
Mhm.
They get a brand new small truck. Every 10 years, they got a brand new big truck.
Yep.
Well, that's wonderful.
well, the town does it too.
When
though.
did, yeah.
We have to do a new
How
ambulance
many
every
years
5
did we
years.
get? Nothing but junks.
I mean, but
No, so this is up to the selectmen to decide.
it is. I understand. I just want
And
to
this
put
is-
my 2 cents in, it,
Yeah.
that's all.
And-
And again, I'm not disagreeing with anybody. I swear, I really am not.
Okay, Mr. Bennett, please.
Just a couple of things. Besides the last DOR review, 2009, it was the same recommendation to have a formal pilot. And if you go back and look, 2013 annual town meeting was the last year that there was an article that said to see if the town would appropriate X amount of dollars from the surplus operating funds of the municipal
Yeah.
light department, their department of the town. The last time that the water budget was on town meeting floor, I believe it's 2015. They just arbitrarily decided, we ain't doing this no more, because it's purely political.
Right?
It was 14.
And, they're gonna agree to have their elected salaries a town meeting floor. It's the friggin' municipal law, state law.
Mhm.
And they've been thumbing their nose at all of it for a long time.
And as long as you let them, they do it. they
And
do
it's
it.
easy to get the best equipment and have a trucks in a regular schedule when you don't deal with town meeting, because no municipal light department budget goes in front of town meeting.
Yeah.
Water department budgets do.
Yes.
And look at other area towns that have municipal light departments, they all still have these articles where, and there is a formula on the Public Power Association webpage. And I believe last time I looked at it, it was 4% of surplus funds. And I did the math for Templeton using their own financial reports that's in the annual town report, and it's way more than $150,000. Way more.
Well,
It's in like the $400,000 range.
Just
So-
under $500,000.
As far as, well, we should play nice and tiptoe. No, the law is the law.
Mhm.
I have a copy of the water budget. The commissioners get paid. The water commissioners get paid. Light commissioners getting paid too. That's a cost to the town for retirement and health insurance. You're an elected official, you make over $5,000 a year, you're in Worcester County retirement.
Right.
So
Well said.
they are a municipal town department. The building that they are in
It's a town building.
went to town meeting, $1.5 million to see if the town would appropriate that amount of money to take on that debt.
No.
The building cost 1.9. The Light Commission has transferred $400,000 from some surplus fund accounts that they have. They pay a pilot through the Emwick wind tunnel out in Western Mass to 2 towns through Emwick. But as a member of the 10, 11 towns, they pay a pilot. So Templeton taxpayers, because everybody gets their light, so it's just another tax to a town for a town department. And what do they do with some of that money? They have to pay pilots to other towns because of the entity they belong on. And then they tell the town, well, you give us something and we'll let you know if we think you can do that or we're gonna help you out or not. It's a town department.
Yeah.
And I thank you for taking this on. and recommending it.
1987, Article 8 of the annual town meeting, appropriate $158,500 from the light department operating revenues of calendar year 87 and 88 to establish the tax rate for fiscal year 80 ending 6/30/88. And the light department, in lieu of taxes, gave us $20,000. So it's a game they're playing, and we have a losing hand, and we need to say to them, you have to get in the ball game, because every single thing that we have in this town is on the backs of the homeowner.
Yep.
We get very little help. We need companies. We need people to come in and give us help, because other than that, it's going to get very difficult. So enough for that. That's my feeling on
Is
it.
there any other comments on?
Yeah,
the
not
motion?
to disagree with
Don't
Mr.
keep
Chairperson,
going.
but this has been going on too long,
Yeah, it's not.
much too long. That, to take and end up saying that they've done something for us, yeah, we all understand that, but they need to take it into doing what's the law and end up abiding that following stuff. So, I mean, this really has to happen.
That's up to the selectmen.
Thank you.
It's time.
Hopefully the selectmen can do their thing.
Is there any other comments on this?
Nope. Put it to bed.
Hearing none, Ms. Bartolomeo.
Yes.
Mr. Spring.
Yes.
Mr. Caplis.
No,
Ms. Hanza.
Yes.
And I am a yes. That vote is 4-1 to approve at 7:33 PM. Moving to item 7A, discussion. The ESSER funds and usage by the Narragansett Regional School District. Mr. Caplis, you requested this be placed on the agenda. I will note that there are no motions that are required for discussion items. This literally is just discussion items. So Mr. Caplis, please go ahead.
and just a discussion piece, obviously the S2, S3 funds, obviously not that we as a town have any choice of what the school does with their funding. I want to make that point pretty clear. They send us a bill and we pay a bill. That's what it works.
Yeah.
But my concern going forward, especially in 2022.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically the state and the federal government says you can specifically use ESSER funds for specific things and you can use things to offset your budget. That's what they said initially. Well, then they came back and said you can't do that.
That sounds like something the federal government would do.
After the budget was already done. So all the operating budget's already been set. It's all been, I wouldn't say level funded, but level funded. It's been funded, right? Correct. Level service. I want to use the right terminology.
Mhm.
But now not being able to use those funds in the operating budget, shortfalls of budget, probably about 190,000, give or take.
That's about the number that I heard, it's
Yeah,
about
about
100,
100,
102 or something like that.
109.
100,
If you include Narragansett and Monty Tax.
yeah, for both, both
Yeah,
school programs.
Both
Okay.
schools, which we should.
Which we should, I mean, because again, it's, you know,
I think it was 169
Okay,
roughly, okay.
between the two.
So obviously you can't take that out of the,
Oh, but you're talking the 192 between Phillipston and
yes,
Templeton for NRSD.
yes,
Okay.
yes, yes, I do.
there's also money for money tech, obviously.
There is money for money tech as well, yeah. But again, I just wanted to bring it to the committee's,
We know.
this attention because I think it's important to start discussing maybe some courses of action that we can represent, maybe some plans of action that the select board can take into account. Just some, basic courses of action, like what courses of actions do we have with that kind of money? Do we use utilization of free cash? I mean, is that an option on the table? I mean, is there something that we got to go to the department heads and say, okay, not saying department heads, I want you to specifically take, but go to the departments and say, hey, we're gonna do a 4% reduction per department and let the department heads do their job and say, okay, where's that funding gonna come from? Then have Adam and the Board of Selectmen, come up with a plan of action, how that's gonna work. I mean, there are a couple ways of doing this, but obviously the easiest, cleanest way obviously is free cash. but
Yeah, that's what we did every year that got
I
us
know.
into trouble.
You're absolutely 100% right. When someone said it to me, I almost threw up. But I'm,
Mr. I'd like to defer to Mr. Lamontagne to
Sure.
speak a few words on this, if you could, please.
So at the point when that first came up.
Yeah.
We didn't really know what the school district was gonna do.
Speak up, because I don't think.
Oh, I'm not talking loud enough.
Use the mic.
Okay. So when that first came up, we weren't sure what the school district was gonna do. There was concerns, there was option one, the school district of them making the cuts within their own budget, lowering their bottom line number. And then there was applying the rest of their E and D that they had to make up the difference in option two. And then option three was to go back to the towns to raise that assessment number. I can say that I spoke with, obviously, select board members. I know select board member Bennett went and talked to Dr. Cassavant. I had a conversation with Dr. Cassavant, and it appears that they, from what I'm hearing from the administration, that they won't be pursuing option three, which is a good thing for the town. I think and I indicated to Dr. Caspian, and I usually don't share phone call conversations, but I will because of the importance of this. Share the fact that I did say, option one is probably the best for the NRSD going into the long term, because we know fiscal year 23 and 24 will be challenging. And I can say that I think they're going to work hard to achieve not coming back to the towns.
And that's good, because I can, as much as I know that there'd be a fight on a vote with Templeton residents, the Phillipston residents, it's gonna be even worse fight. Not a snowball's chance, and we'll leave it at that. But thank you, Mr. Lamontagne, for that clarification. Is there anything, John, do you have anything else you wanted to bring up on that? Does anybody else want to bring anything up with regards
I
to this item?
don't think we should put that on the backs of the town, but
No.
it needs to be on the school as far as against the school. They have extra E and D money.
Speak up, because
They have extra E and D money there. I think it's around 400,000, if I recall correctly, or close to it. They also have the ability to take and end up making cuts on stuff that they added. I mean, they need to take and address this now, because it's going to be very difficult in the coming years. If they don't do that, I don't want to take and end up getting them to take and ask us for more and more money when we already have issues already. The administrators already come and they're talking about this level funding. The town's budget, and it's not really a great situation all around. So I think they need to take and address it, and we need to take and end up keeping right now the town's budget the way it is. We're going through some difficult times here now ourselves.
Any other comments on this particular item? Okay, excellent. Thank you. Thank you. The second item under discussion, 7B, was presented by Mr. Spring, and this is part of our review of policies for the course of the year. So at our next meeting, well, I shouldn't say that, at our October 7th meeting, we're going to be reviewing and finalizing the advisory committee policy on end-of-year transfers. This is the next one that we'd like to review, and this one is the committee, this is the general stabilization fund policy. What I'm going to ask the committee is we would like to review this, and we're going to return with any comments or requested edits at the meeting on Thursday, November 4, 2021. So I'm getting, just like we've given with all the rest of the policies, a month. In fact, a little bit over a month in this case, in order to review it and come back with any other policies. I do realize already that the general stabilization fund funding proposal for the FY 18 operating budget will have to update that, obviously. We'll update that to unless we just want to put this as an example.
Yeah, that's as an
Okay.
example.
So we'll relabel it as an example. That's fine. I will do the same thing that I've done with previous. I will go through, clean it up, do the, work my, make the formatting, make the formatting consistent, the whole 9 yards, add the periodic review timeline and stuff like that to it, and then we'll go from there. Okay?
Have a discussion on that.
If there's anything you would like to, then we can have discussion on it. I was just putting forth the timeline, and now if there's any discussion on it, it's just.
So people are aware, again, this was a document that was put out in 2016. It didn't cost the town any money. It's not like the financial policy that the selectmen did and spent 20,000. I want to make sure that all the policies that the advisory did didn't cost this town 1 cent. We didn't go out and get somebody. We did it. We pulled it together. And you pointed out in 18, yes, right now, the town is sitting stabilization fund of $714,015.35.
Back in 18, that's where it was.
No, this is present.
Oh, this is current. Oh, you
This
have,
is
okay, I
current.
didn't realize you had a current number.
I have a current number.
I apologize. I take it back.
I have current number.
Okay.
With Article 14, Mr. Administrator, if I'm correct, Article 14 puts another 142,500 into stabilization. Is that correct?
Mr. Spring, could you repeat yourself again? Sorry, my apologies.
Using article, this is article
Article
14 from, was this
Article
an annual town meeting?
Those
or just
numbers are
discussion?
still highlighted because I haven't received the free cash certification yet.
Okay.
So I have to figure out the formulas by the policy.
Those numbers are estimated. They may not be the actual
Estimated.
numbers that are reflected.
Those are
But
just,
I want to take it into talking to the fact that we're putting more money in. What the actual number is when we finish, it will be higher, so.
and if I can speak to that actually further, Mr. Chair.
Please.
Sure.
You need a microphone because they can't.
Well, no, there's mics above there. He should
Yeah,
be
but
getting
that
picked
doesn't
up.
work. I
I'll
watched the
speak
meeting.
louder. So if we don't get the free cash certification in by the fall town meeting, what I'll do is I'll just move forward with those deposits at the annual town meeting. Because I gotta get by our policy, I have to know how much money to put into each of those accounts.
Okay. So if you don't have the exact numbers for the coming fall
Free
town
cash
meeting,
numbers.
then that article will not be, that article will be not.
Pushed off to
it'll be
annual.
pushed off to annual in May. Okay, that makes sense.
That's fair enough. Okay. So I did some math and stuff like that, so I have actually figured it. The one thing I want to talk about was the fact that in the selectmen's, and that it's the selectmen's financial management. It's not that the past selectmen have done. It wasn't passed by this committee like it is in other communities for whatever reason. I don't know why, but that's gone by the board.
Yeah.
And the fact that I started looking as to the actual policy, and I looked at other communities, and we seem to be the only one that excludes debt and also Worcester County. They're part of the budget. How can you exclude them when you start figuring out the percentage to get to the 8%? I went to other communities to take and see what they do, and they don't exclude it, so all the figures that the advisory puts out is on the entire budget, whatever the budget is, and whatever the stabilization number is as a percentage. And we're not even close to the 8% goal that they have. We're probably half that, just as an example for the select board, so I'll just leave it at that. We'll have our discussion at the next meeting. I have some stuff already updated that I'll be passing on to
Mr.
the
Bennett.
chairman.
Yes, could you repeat the balance for the general stabilization fund?
The general stabilization fund that I found on the budget was $714,015.35. Is
I
that
have-
incorrect, Mr.
I
Bennett?
have on the monthly expenditure report up until 8/31/2021. It says the balance of the general stabilization fund is 968,401.86.
Oh. Higher.
That's funny, because that same number was I found it in a couple places.
Well, check that percentage calculator.
Yeah.
Okay.
Stabilization fund is very, very important. The more money we have in there, the better off we are. It helps our bond rating. It also gives some control over how it's spent to town meeting. Because in order for town meeting to pass, it needs a 2/3 vote.
They take money out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to take money out. If we want to, if the administration wants to buy something, they come to the people and they say, this is what we would like to buy, this is what it's gonna cost. And it takes 2/3 of town meeting to approve it.
Not only
Um,
that, it'll actually, in down years, because I've seen some communities where they go out and they take their stabilization money to end up augmenting the budget so that the tax rate is.
I was just about to say that.
Doesn't hit the folks that hard.
In
I was
our,
just about to say that.
in our down years, we sucked up a lot of our free cash
Yeah.
just to make ends meet. And stabilization got hit also. But you can't take money out without a town meeting vote. It's not supposed to be a savings account. It's supposed to be used. And I think if we have a good working relationship with the select board and they can justify what they want it for, people will go along. I've very seldom ever seen them say no to something that was reasonable. So that's good to have a new policy.
I was just gonna say that stabilization account, that's really is a good, it's a rainy day fund.
Yes,
That's
yes,
what they-
it is.
It's a rainy day fund, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the money that if we have an off, while we're having good years, we should be putting as much as we can into it.
That's right.
Because when we have off years, that's when we're gonna need to go to town meeting and get the 2/3 vote to pull money back so that we can either maintain a level fund or augment budgets for whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
So while we're having good years, we need to put the money in there, how we have it.
Yeah.
This way, when we are having bad years, we have the money there to be able to use. So. Any other discussion on this? Again, the ask from the committee is that we're gonna review this and return with any comments or requested edits at the meeting on Thursday, November 4th.
Yeah.
Hearing none. Let's go to member comments. Ms. Bartolomeo.
I think we've covered a lot of good things tonight, a lot of things that need to go forward in order to make the town function better. I hope before I die, I can demolish the path of least resistance.
Why do we always come back to you? Why do we always come back to you dying in every meeting? No.
Because I'm not getting any younger. But we have been going around in this vicious circle because it's easy. You don't have to make hard decisions. Don't have to make waves. But it also hurts. It doesn't show right off. It's kind of like a bruise you get and it takes a while to show. Well, I don't want them no more of that.
Mm.
I want to see people do their job, step up and make good decisions. So somebody's not happy with you, they'll get over it. If you can live with yourself and say you've done a good job, that's all I ask. Everybody makes mistakes. The pilot is an important thing to get straightened out. Probably one of the most important things we have to do. We have to work with, the light company is our light company. Their debt is our debt. Same with the water department. They are not special. They are as good as any other department. Our highway department is important. Every department in this town is important. And they have to work with us. Put on their big boy pants. Every other municipal department in the state does that, so they can too. And Jeffrey, you were right about the clear belt thing. I can't see throwing away $6,000 when we have better places to spend it. I know it looks like we got a lot of money coming in, but you know that can change in a heartbeat. So the only thing I wanted to mention, I saw a letter from a resident about, oh, where the heck is it? Did you see that? It was about,
I think those are gonna be,
the legislative thing.
Yes, and those are gonna be placed on the
Okay.
next meeting's agenda.
Next meeting, okay, that I'd like to cover because he's a very intelligent citizen and I think it's important for us to look at what he had to say.
Those will be placed on the next meeting's agenda. I received them. I didn't have
Okay,
enough time to
that's
place them on the
fine, that's
agenda for this meeting.
I
I
don't
actually
wanna-
believe I received them inside the
I
48
don't
hour
wanna
window.
I don't want to wear everybody out. So I think it was a good meeting. I think we did a lot accomplished. I'm glad to meet you, sir, and you too. So moving forward,
Thank you, Bev.
you're welcome.
Mr. Kaplan.
Again, great meeting, good discussion. Thanks for the time.
Thank you, Mr. Kaplan. Ms. Hanza.
Thank you.
Mr. Spring.
I have to go along with what Bev says. Shake it up, tighten things up.
Speak up.
Speak up.
People
We need to
can-
dig and tighten things up.
There you go.
It's not like I'm doing this for myself. I look at, I'm doing this for the people of this community. It's them I'm working for, not for me. Some of what I've talked about is not gonna benefit me one bit unless it happens now. But it's gonna affect everybody else. They're gonna benefit. And that's really my position, and it's always been my position of staying on the advisory committee. We need to take an end up doing that. And I'm not gonna take the same much because I put quite a bit of things on the agenda. And I will probably end up having something to say some other time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Spring.
And it was I think I appreciate you doing the job as well as you do.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, or thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Spring. My comments this evening. First of all, I will make my public service announcement again. If there's anyone, if there are any registered voters in the town who wish to serve on the advisory committee, we still have 2 open positions. I encourage you to go to the town website, templetonma.gov, get the committee interest form, fill it out, send it back to Holly Young, hyoung@templetonma.gov, and it will be brought in front of this committee for appointment at this point. Please, if you have any interest, please reach out to any one of the committee members. We're more than happy to discuss what we do and how we do it. But if you have interest and you want to join us, we would greatly appreciate your voice. To all of the town department heads, as you now know, we will be holding our pre-town meeting on Thursday, October 21st in this room at 6:30 p.m. If you have an article on the warrant, I strongly advise you to make the time to be at that pre-town meeting in order to speak to it. With the town administrator will be here as well, but please make the time to come and join us and speak to that article. If you have one on the, if you have one on there.
Residents also, if you would like to come and you have a question, Feel free,
Yeah.
absolutely. This is your government. You have a right to speak, you have a right to ask questions. That would be a good thing.
So please join us.
Yeah.
Please join us for that meeting. That is a very important meeting. It is where we will make the recommendations for the articles on that warrant. What's the number? How many we have?
14, 15.
14 or 15?
Well, depending upon.
Depending on the one, yeah, exactly. So we're gonna have 14 or 15 articles that we're gonna be discussing that evening and making recommendations on.
Citizen petitions too.
No citizens petitions, no citizens petitions. Citizens petitions closed 2 days ago, and you said there were none submitted. So it'll just be the 14 or 15 that were presented by the select board, the departments, and the one presented by us through the select board that will be on the warrant. So, again, Thursday, October 21st, 2021, 6:30 PM, here in the town hall conference room at Templeton Town Hall. Please join us. Community, please join us. Department heads, please join us. We look forward to having as many voices here as possible so that we can make informed decisions.
It's imperative that whoever's got an article out, come before us, taking it up,
Let's
giving us information.
roll it up.
We have to-
Outside of that,
No, I got three.
thank you to everyone for your thoughtful deliberation this evening. I appreciate it very much. Once again, I know we have voted for a meeting in 2 weeks, which would be the 5th Thursday of the month. I do have a couple of items on the agenda for that meeting. Again, that meeting will be called the chair.
Okay.
We're also supposed to have a meeting directly 1 week after that. That meeting will also be called the
Okay,
chair.
fine.
If we get through everything that we need to get through in 2 weeks and I don't have any agenda items for the following week, I'm not holding that meeting.
Okay, good.
I'm not gonna have this committee's time be used frivolously, obviously. I want to make sure we're doing work that needs to be done. And if that means we have to be home, you know what, we have to.
Oh, that's a tough one.
So, having said that, if there's no other discussion or comments at this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn until September 30th, 2021 at 6:30 PM.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Do I have any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Bartolomeo,
Yes.
Mr. Spring.
Yes.
Mr. Caplis.
Yes.
Ms. Hanza.
Yes.
And I am a yes. 5-0 at
We'll run it.
7:57 PM.